Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. So as you may have noticed, it's been a little while since I've done my last video. That's because I had family over recently, so we did a lot of travel together, which was cool. Quite exhausting, but you know, it's always fun to travel. So that's why I've been out for a couple of weeks, but I've actually got a backlog of a lot of new material to talk about, so I thought I'll get around to that as soon as possible. This is the first proper opportunity, so that's what I'm doing today. Today's update consists of 4 CDs, all black metal, so you know straight away what you're in for and whether or not you'll like this video or not in terms of the content. So that's what I'm going to talk about. 4 different CDs, and I also have some vinyls and other items, but I'm going to include those in a separate update so it's not too long. So without further ado, we'll get straight into it. So the first one I picked up is Behemoth with From the Pagan Vastlands. Not Wastelands, Vastlands. Yeah. Okay, so you have a look at this cover. It's very black metal with the corpse paint and the woods, and some people may be saying, but wait a minute, isn't Behemoth that commercially successful or even hipster death metal band? In a nutshell, yes. But actually, in the early days, they started out as a black metal band, in case you didn't know. And this is actually, it's not an official album. This is their 4th demo from 1994. But just like Horner's Hidden Tawny demo, it's very good. It's almost of album quality, if you ask me. So basically, this band, as I said, they're from Poland. They started out as a like a raw black metal band with atmosphere, and then they evolved into like Black Death crossover, and now I suppose it's what you would call death metal. And so they're known today as a very commercially successful band. You know, Nergal is a very outspoken frontman. But yeah, they're actually quite an obscure band in the past. So if you ask me, what I honestly prefer is their older material. I always respect a band can do what they want in terms of changing their style, except I prefer this era a lot more. So you might have heard me on a previous video. I talked about their album Sventovith, Storming Near the Baltic. That was their first official full length. That came after this one. But yeah, it's quite funny considering what the band has become. It says here in the label, where is it? Behemoth plays evil black metal exclusively. Using this mark will be revenged with true hate. So, and also they include a fuck off list here, which is nice. And what did they say in that? All white metal bands and trendy death metal dickheads. Black metal fakes. Yeah, so there you go. A little bit of a contradiction, because some people might say, isn't that hypocritical because that's what they've become? But anyway, I'm here to talk about the music. So yeah, what you have on this particular demo is cold, harsh black metal with emotive riffs. It's not overly fast. In fact, in many cases, it's more slow to mid-paced with the kind of riffs that you can hum along to due to the catchy melodies. So it's not caustic or harsh all the time. It's quite melodic and emotional. And there are also fast sections though with blast beats, so there's a variety of tempos, but it's always grand and memorable. And in addition to the that general black metal sound, they have icy deep keyboards and acoustic guitars laid over the top for additional melody and atmosphere, so it makes the songs even more memorable. Yeah, so it's absolutely fantastic musically. Also, the production is fittingly raw, but not overly raw. Like that's the problem I have with a lot of these so-called raw black metal bands these days. They just go way too over the top with it and it sounds muffled and horrible. What's the point of that? But this has just the right amount of bite to it in terms of the rawness, with audible bass and thunderous drumming, which isn't too high in the mix. So I think they got the black metal mix and production just perfect on this album. Just like their first full-length Sventovith, this has a very central / Eastern European sound and feeling. So a lot of the melodies are kind of reflective and sad, but more in a soulful or emotive way rather than in a depressing way. So in that sense, I find it very similar to Sventovith, Storming Near the Baltic. If you like that album and haven't heard this, you'll probably like this too. The only difference is this one is actually not as raw. It's just, in fact, it's better in my opinion than Sventovith, maybe to do with the production as well. But in a nutshell, this is just great black metal. So this is from the time when black metal was fresh as well, so early 90s. But it sounds quite different to a lot of the popular Scandinavian stuff at that time. So it's still really unique even for its time. So all of this consists of 7 songs. Just show you the back cover there. Very early 90s black metal. It's cool. All tracks have great moments, but my favorite is probably track 4, which is no, not track 4, track 5, Black Visions of the Almighty. That has some haunting and cold riffs and majestic keyboards which lift the great melodies, but you find many moments like that on this album. It also closes with a cover of Mayhem's Death Crush. Yawn. Okay, so fucking like so many bands have covered that song. By the way, I do like Mayhem and I really do like that song Death Crush, but you have to admit it's been overkilled in terms of the covers. However, take into account that this was 1994, so it wasn't oversaturated at the time. And yeah, that cover is fast and sharp with great shrieking evil vocals. It's sort of like the cover version that Ophthalmia did on Nordic Metal, a tribute to Euronymous. So yeah, it's a good Death Crush cover, except I've just heard that song so many times. But the original material is just absolutely fantastic. So check this out if you like black metal. All right, so I'll just show you the booklet. Okay, so you've got all the lyrics here. It's in quite small print, and they have, you know, as I said, an entertaining fuck off list and statements, which they, in a sense, later went against. But, you know, I'm here just to talk about the music. I'm a fan of the music. I try not to criticize a band's decisions about the directions they want to go in. But yeah, if you just like early 90s and Eastern European black metal, definitely check this out. It's worth it. So that's Behemoth with From the Pagan Vastlands. And don't be turned off if you don't like their new stuff. Like for me, I did like some of the death metal stuff like Satanica and Thelema 6, but after that, for me, it became a bit samey. Especially, what was that album, 2002, Zosia Cultus? I bought that one and later sold it. Yeah, it just didn't do much for me, but this early black metal stuff is just fantastic. So yeah, Behemoth with From the Pagan Vastlands. All right. Now, from Poland, up next we're moving over to the US. I also picked up Hemlock with Crush the Race of God. So this was an album I actually heard about many years ago. I think it was in an Australian fanzine, Unholy Scriptures, I think, where they talked about this and they gave a review. And yeah, that's what piqued my interest, and I'll explain that a little bit later. So this is a black metal band, Hemlock, from New York, and they were active from 1992 to 2001. They only released a couple of demos, this EP in 1997 and 2 full lengths towards the end of their career. This band is sort of semi-famous in the sense that it features Danny Lilker, who's in a handful of bands, most famously Brutal Truth, but also Nuclear Assault. So he's the creative force behind this, I think. And also, I think it may also feature Rich Hope, the drummer of Brutal Truth, but I can't be sure, but definitely Danny Lilker. So what you have on this album is harsh, raw, grim black metal with menacing and evil riffs and tortured, screamy vocals. So again, if you like old school black metal from the early 90s, especially Dark Throne and Burzum from that era, you will probably like this. What's interesting about this is not just any old raw black metal. It's influenced by Dark Throne, but as I said, the Unholy Scriptures review of this album piqued my interest because they said it sounded like a cross between Dark Throne's Goat Lord and A Blaze in the Northern Sky. So those, you know, everyone knows like so many black metal bands are influenced by Dark Throne, and I suppose the blueprint for a lot of bands is Transylvanian Hunger and A Blaze in the Northern Sky and Under a Funeral Moon. But this one takes a lot more influence from Goat Lord, which was that really obscure, unique album done by Dark Throne where it was, and like lost demo from the early 90s where it was like death metal music with black metal vocals. But yeah, this album is very similar to Dark Throne's Goat Lord in terms of the musicianship and production. It's got those slow, heavy, murky riffs, but also fast with blast beats in some sections. And you know in Goat Lord it's got that really murky, eerie production that's very prominent on this too. So they did a great job at imitating that, if that's what they were intending to do. Also, there's some, in terms of the riffs and the galloping pace, it sometimes sounds like Dark Throne's Panzerfaust as well, which was their 1995 album. So yeah, all of the riffs and melodies are really catchy, hypnotic, and easy to hum along to, and each song is loaded with a medley of great riffs, yet the songs as a whole are still really memorable. What I also like about this album is that the bass sound is strong in the mix, it's audible, and featuring a couple of solo cameo moments from the bass as well, and the drumming is raw and thunderous and appropriately clattery, so it's got that black metal bite which you expect in the production, which is great. But once again, just like the Behemoth album, this is fittingly raw, but not stupidly or overly raw. So once again, if you like Dark Throne's Goat Lord, that's a strong indicator of what you can expect on here, but it still has its own original twist. every song on this is really good. Like, I find memorable moments in every one, but 6 tracks you've got here. My favorites are track 2, which is called Unleashed Armageddon. The main riff on that sounds very similar to Triumphant Gleam from Darkthrone's Panzerfaust. You know, that gallop. Also, probably my favorite track is track 4, which is called Cry to the Moon. The main riff is very similar in certain respects to Burzum's My Journey to the Stars, and the fast riff in the middle is a sped up version of the post-chorus riff in Marduk's Burn My Coffin. So, again, that wins points with me. Heavily influenced by Darkthrone, but also aspects of Burzum and Marduk. Hey, you can't go wrong. Also, I love track 6, which is called Rise of the Serpent. That's got an evil, haunting, plodding and heavy main riff, which reminds me of the vibe on the Darkthrone song As Desert Shadows, which was also from Goat Lord. Fantastic song, by the way. It's so good, this song here, and also features some kind of rock and roll type black metal riffs that Darkthrone did as well, you know, on Under a Funeral Moon and so on. And yeah, especially on later albums. So that song also features some excellent fast dissonant riffs in the middle, and when they become more melodic, they conjure the atmosphere of some of the riffs from Darkthrone's Transylvania Hunger album, as well as The Serpent's Harvest, which was from Darkthrone's Total Death. So yeah, that may sound like a mouthful, but taking mostly influence from Darkthrone's Goat Lord, but also aspects of Panzerfaust, Total Death, Transylvanian Hunger. So Darkthrone fans, you can't go wrong with this. Just show you the booklet and the CD. Okay, so quite plain. Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry about that, my phone memory was full, so I'll just resume. In any event, I had to pick up some laundry as well. So yep, still talking about the Hemlock album. I'll just show you the booklet. So there is the disc, quite plain. Same as the Behemoth one, really. And yep, so you've got the quite blasphemous cover there. And all of the lyrics, you'll see that the style of writing in print is very similar to Darkthrone's Ravishing Grimness design as well. So obviously they take a lot of influence from Darkthrone. You can hear that in the sound. Cool, obscure artwork, I like this. And then you see the 4 members of the band, they have pseudonyms, so they don't use their real names, and very sort of theatrical descriptions of what they play. But yeah, as I said, this is raw black metal done right, taking a lot of influence from Darkthrone, but not those classic albums that all the bands typically do. Like, most people are influenced by Ablaze, Under a Funeral Moon, and Transylvanian Hunger. This particular album takes most of its influence from Goat Lord and Panzerfaust, and also various other bands. So really interesting band, great album, check it out. Or EP, Hemlock with Crush the Race of God. All right, so continuing now. Actually, the remaining bands are also from the US, so this video kind of has a US black metal theme, with the exception of Behemoth. So I also picked up Leviathan with Hell Mockery at the Cross. So a lot of people are probably familiar with this band, but if you're not, Leviathan, not to be mistaken with the death metal band that Chris Barnes used to be in, the Death Thrash band. This is a one-man black metal band from the US. It's created by a guy called Jeff Whitehead, who goes under the pseudonym Rest, W-R-E-S-T. So this band was featured on the one-man metal documentary along with Zaster and Streborg, and he has released most materials independently and as demos, as is the case here. So it says on the back here, this is not the new Leviathan album. This is demo materials for the die-hard fans. So yeah, what you have with Leviathan, this is bleak, harsh, nihilistic black metal. It's a really distorted wall of sound in all of the music, with very distorted, harsh vocals as well. And some may associate this with DSBM, what's known as depressive suicidal black metal, but I don't like that term because that music doesn't make me feel suicidal at all. Modern pop music does. But anyway, yeah. So the intro is an ominous ambient keyboard track with some trumpets and a galloping build-up. But then basically after that you have fast black metal with blast beats and evil, ominous sounding riffs. There's also a lot of mid-paced galloping and catchy sections too, and the fast parts are really piercing and intense. In a way, again, this is comparable to Darkthrone, and a little bit it reminds me of Judas Iscariot, especially with the drumming, you know, that kind of frantic tat-tat-tat-tat style drumming. Some of the riffs have that kind of Norwegian sound as well, particularly in the vein of old Mayhem. So when I listen to this album, I'm reminded of Mayhem on more than one occasion, for sure. As for the production, it's clear and you can hear all of the instruments, including the bass, clearly, but there's just the right amount of distortion to give it that bite, so it doesn't sound muffled and horrible, unlike Transylvanian Hunger, for example. The drumming is crisp and clear, with good snare bite and some thunderous tom-tom fills, and there's also some dim synths in the background of some songs at times. The vocals remind me a little bit of Abbott from Immortal, but perhaps harsher and not as monotonous, if you know what I mean. So there's a lot of interesting moments on this album, and some mid-paced melodic riffs as well as some interludes with just some keyboards and vocals. So once again, that reminds me a lot of Zaster. So again, Zaster, Streborg and Leviathan are kind of overlapping stylistically, if you ask me. Whole album is great. You've got how many tracks? 10. My favorite tracks are tracks 5, 6 and 7. So track 5, Lyre of Nazareth, that has some powerful marching riffs. Also track 6, which is called Just Under Tainted Grace, that has some very bleak sounding riffs, keyboard ambience and vocals, once again similar to Zaster. And then track 7, called Swole, S-W-O-L, that is similar to track 6, but it's slower, and it's also comparable to Streborg in some respects. So it's very slow with hardly any drums. It relies heavily on a lot of ambience and atmosphere. Yeah, so basically that's what you can expect from this album. It's that kind of, as I said, I don't like that term DSBM, but it's dreary, bleak, sorrowful black metal, which is also harsh and caustic with a lot of great atmosphere. So the bands I find myself comparing Leviathan to, if you are familiar with Zaster and Streborg, you will probably like this too. But again, those bands, while they overlap, they have some different aspects to them as well. So just show you the inner booklet. By the way, I love the logo of this band, and this is just snippets from the old demos. Cool disc design as well. And there's Jeff or Rest in corpse paint, and they've got some snippets of the old demo covers. Yeah, so really good. This is a subgenre or a sub-subgenre of black metal, which I'm really getting into, this dreary, bleak black metal, and a lot of the American bands do it really well. So definitely, if that sounds up your alley, check this album out if you haven't already. So Leviathan with Hell Mockery at the Cross. Okay, now coming up to the last CD of the day. Speaking of Zaster, I also picked up Zaster with the self-titled EP. So yeah, there's the logo there. So again, a lot of you are probably familiar with Zaster. Zaster is another one-man black metal band from the USA, done by a guy called Scott Connors, I think, and his band was also in the One Man Metal documentary. So really interesting. I'll link that in the description. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. So this is the same kind of style as I just mentioned. It's that dreary, bleak sounding black metal, very sorrowful. Like when I listen to this band, it always reminds me of trudging through the snow in a snowstorm or blizzard, and everything you see is black and white. It's really dreary and sorrowful, but also so atmospheric. You know, it's just fantastic. So I only have one other album by him, which is Telepathic with the Deceased. That's great as well. And this album is kind of in the same vein, cool artwork. So yeah, it's sort of slow, dreary black metal, and it's layered with a lot of keyboards and ambience. And really, as I said, it just focuses so much on atmosphere, just like those other bands, Leviathan and Streborg. So yeah, really good. I think this album consists of 3 tracks. There's an instrumental, and then 2 ones with vocals and lyrics, but they're all fantastic. Like I was listening to this again just last night, and I thought, I don't know how they managed to do it, like invoke so much atmosphere. So don't get me wrong, it's not like let's get happy-go-lucky or energetic music. It's the opposite. It's dreary, but as I said, I don't like that term DSBM because, as I said, it's modern pop music that makes me want to commit suicide. You know, not seriously, but you know what I mean. This is just atmospheric and sorrowful, dreary and bleak, absolutely fantastic. So if you haven't heard Zaster, this might be a good release to start with because it's only 3 songs, just as a little sampler, but I love it just as much as the other one I have. By the way, the same Scott, the guy who does this band, he's released so many albums, mostly in the form of demos as well, and I can't wait to pick up more. But I just think I'm really enjoying this sub-genre of American black metal, where it's just this, yeah, so atmospheric. So I won't use the same adjectives that I have already because it'll get boring, but you get my drift, okay? So absolutely fantastic release, fantastic band. This is Zaster with Zaster. All right, guys, and that's it. Sorry that the video was a bit disjointed today. As I said, my phone ran out of memory. Then I had to pick up my laundry. God, what a drama. But anyway, I got through those CDs and that's long overdue. So thanks for sticking around if you've got this far. And in the next video, I'm going to do a black metal vinyl update. So three releases which I picked up recently, and I'm looking forward to doing that as well. So I hope you join me again next time. I'll leave it there. So in the meantime, stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.